This is your place for all things Grand Rapids Griffins and all things Toledo Walleye. This is the Hockeytown West Podcast with your host, Brandon Cook, Nick Harrington, and Travis Foch.
Well, boys, on Friday, I figured out the most confusing entrance possible at Little Caesars Arena. So I went to a concert down there, and you look at the front two entrances, you got the Meyer one, and I think the other one's the Chevy entrance, right? You go to the back side, there's the priority entrance, which us knowing the game of hockey and knowing the ugly jersey sponsor for the Red Wings, we know that's a sponsored entrance. But we sat there thinking about it while waiting in a line with a bunch of people all going, is this an entrance just for like priority access? Or is this an actual entrance, which caused mass confusion and the shortest line I've ever waited to get into for a concert? So, good bonus for me. More confusion to why priority even sponsors anything. And maybe someone should clarify that entrance that it's not a priority entrance. But hey, the benefit was great for me because I was in the arena way earlier than I would have been if I would have waited out front. So I will take that. But screw priority. That's the moral of the story here, as it will continue to be. They'll never be a sponsor of this show, so I feel like I can say that.
We need Carhartt.
Welcome. We need Carhartt, too. You need a Carhartt sponsorship specifically. That would be sick, though. Some Carhartt Hockeytown West merch. I would love it. Well, welcome back, everyone, to the show. We're coming at you with a preseason update on the Detroit Red Wings so far and what's been played, 4 games. We'll talk about some prospects and what we've kind of thought so far. We won't keep this one too crazy long because it is just preseason. You can only read into it so far. But today we're joined by a special guest replacing Nick, who's on vacation this week. We've got Devin Little, or Hockey with Devin, as most know on Twitter there, part of the Flying Octopus Podcast. Welcome to the show, Devin. Thank you, man.
Thank you for having me. Good to join you boys today. Excited to talk some Red Wings, Griffins hockey with you guys.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit of both today for sure because it's so hard to predict where guys are going to land. And I mean, who knows with what we've seen so far, who will make it, who won't. It's probably still too early to tell, but we've seen some guaranteed Griffins show up and play really well that we're definitely going to want to talk about. Before we jump into all that, though, Trav, man, how are you doing today? You're getting ready to head on vacation tomorrow, leaving me in control of the show by myself for like a week and a half. That's scary.
Yeah, you get to be unsupervised. You normally been leaving me and Nick unsupervised. Now you get to go solo. No, good. Just last minute, got everything in line. Other than that, I'm ready to, be out west for a couple weeks and then hit DC on the way home.
You're taking vacation, but it's not a vacation from hockey because I don't think you know personally how to take a vacation from hockey. You're going to go check out 3 new arenas that you and your wife have never been to, right?
Yep, 3 new arenas. We'll be in Denver on Tuesday night for the Avalanche, and then we'll be in Salt Lake City on Thursday for Utah, and then Washington, D.C. the following Wednesday for what could be Ovechkin's last home opener, so that could be pretty special.
What building numbers is that on your guys' arena tour?
I think that'll get us to 17, I think, roughly. It's weird. I have to get a new scratch off. Brandon, you've seen the scratch off I have because, like, for Utah, I'll have to scratch off the Coyotes because I don't have the updated one. But looking forward to it. Very excited. I'm excited to see the Delta Center, what that looks like with the renovated lower bowl. And then the Mammoth jersey drops when I'm going to be in Salt Lake City. So I might have to try and get one of those.
For the jersey collector you are, that's kind of, it lined up perfectly, didn't it?
Yeah. The only other one that there's apparently a huge rumor that the Avalanche are going to be bringing out a third jersey that's like either burgundy or blue, and it's potentially going to have the Nordiques on the front of it. If that makes an appearance while I'm out in Colorado, it's going to be hard to not get one of those also.
Yeah, I pray for your wallet on this trip. The third jersey launches this year have been interesting. Like some of the ones, like obviously the Centennial ones are the Centennial ones, but just the teams doing thirds and going back to some old designs that maybe back in the day you'd look at them and go, I hate those. But then you see them come back, you're like, I'm so happy to see that jersey again. Like I think of the Sharks one and the Wild one. Those 2 third jerseys are sick.
If you want to see that Sharks one, it's hanging up right to my left right now because I have the Coho version of it.
Of course you do. If I would expect anybody to have that jersey in Ohio, it would be you.
I don't have the wild one. That's one of the wild ones I don't have is like that original look, which I told Kelsey, said if we'd have been there this year, I would have probably bought one of those because I wish that was still their regular uniform. I doubt it. I already been there.
That's fair. Well, enough jersey talk because we can get Travis on a tangent for a while. Go over to Patreon if you want to see some jersey talk. I know they've been doing him and Nick have been doing a little series over there showing off the Travis jersey collection, which is massive. And I've seen it in person. That's why I haven't been on those episodes. Nick has never seen it, so he's getting the real reaction first time. But Travis is a true jersey collector by far. It's actually insane how many he has in his closet. So remember patreon.com/Hockeytown West podcast. Check that out. It's pretty freaking neat if you like jerseys, honestly. It's pretty cool. Let's dive into this preseason action so far. The Red Wings took the ice against the Blackhawks for the first game of the preseason, which was a fun one to watch, honestly, all across the board. You see, Jeff Blashill behind the bench for the Blackhawks for the first time in Detroit, with the Blackhawks, I should say. And of course, when you see that, you're like, you want to beat them. And the Red Wings did 3-2. And there was some standout players in this game, I would say. And I think the first one's been the talk of the town since training camp ended in Emmett Finney, who had an incredible assist on Carter Mazur's goal in this game. And then he topped it off with a goal, which was just one of those go into the net, stick with the play hard type of plays to get that goal. What did you guys both think of Emmett Finney in that first preseason game and in the preseason so far? We'll talk about him overall, so we don't need to revisit him 3 more times as we go forward. We're going to go to Devin first just to see what your thoughts were.
Well, he's the talk of the town for good reason. I think he's obviously caught the attention of Red Wings head coach Todd McClellan. He's playing in a premier spot in the lineup for the most part, mainly alongside Dylan Larkin and Lucas Raymond on what's conceivably, the top line. That's crazy. I think the biggest things for me that stand out is just that the pure energy that he plays with. He's playing, McClellan has described it as he's all gas, no brakes. And you're seeing that. I think that's a very accurate depiction of how he's playing. He's going hard into the boards. He's going to the net, maintaining a high level of pace for that top line with Larkin and Raymond, which you got to do if you're going to escape those guys. And for what it's worth too, even just, not just that Chicago game, other games too, he's put himself in good areas too. There was, I want to say it was against the Sabres. There's a goal that Larkin scored, and Larkin scored the goal, but, on the rebound, you see Finney right in front of the crease. If there was a rebound, he would have got it. And so that's kind of what I mean when I say he's putting himself in good areas too. It's, even when he's not producing, he's putting himself in a position to do that. We kind of talked about this, what was that, a week or two ago now, where he's kind of come out of nowhere to like grab the Red Wings world by storm. Nobody was expecting him to do all this this fall, but boy, he's whether it's through his pace, his effort, his skill. You mentioned that assist on the Mazur goal, that was crazy. Like he's got a lot going for him right now. Like I said off the top, he's the talk of the town right now, and I think for very good reason.
Travis, what about you? What are your thoughts?
I mean, Devin pretty much hit all the big points. I think the biggest thing is, like, I think I said it on our last show, like they have a type, I think, that they want to play with Larkin and Raymond. And I think Emmett Finney can fill that type because he's not scared. Like, he's playing with that sense of, I'll go in the corner, I'll go be the puck retriever, right? And not scared to go to the dirty areas. And he's got enough offensive skill to keep up, and he's got the speed to keep up. And I think that's what really separates him here a little bit, is he can really skate. And, he talked about, putting on weight too, muscle, all that, it helps. And like, I think I said last show, like, we didn't expect this by any means. If you watched him at the end of the year in Grand Rapids, it's not that he was bad, but it wasn't like he was the standout guy, right? Like, he was playing in the bottom 6, and like, he could, if he's going to potentially go from 10 games in the bottom 6 in GR to riding shotgun with Larkin and Raymond on the top line, like, that would be an incredible offseason of growth and development. And he just plays with that high motor. He doesn't stop. He's relentless. He's making a case to, continue to play every preseason game that they want to see him in. And ultimately, I still think I'm very interested to see where this goes in week 2. I've said multiple times that week 2 is the real, like, tone setter, because the vets really start to ramp it up. And if he's not looking out of place in week 2, then the real conversation should start. But he's got off to an incredibly good start, and I hope he can keep it up, because a good story like this, it's a vibe, right? And they've tried every vibe possible to have super good feeling going into this year, with it being the Fedorov announcement and then the jersey. Like, you add another vibe to that team's going to be feeling really good about themselves early, with just, okay, we've got kids coming, they're going to help. And I think that's something that, like, he's just creating conversation.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. We're here for the vibes, as Nick would say, with him not being here. I'll fit it in for him. But I think the thing that stood out to me the most with Finney is the hockey IQ that he's showing, like in some of those board plays. Like, I think it was the Buffalo game, the second game of the preseason. He made a nice board play to get the puck out to Raymond, who set up Larkin, who then finds Finney again for an almost goal. And just looking at that patience and the hesitation to feed that puck to Raymond from behind him, I was like, yeah, that's a move that most kids, in the sense that he is, would probably panic and just either shove it up the ice down one way or back the other way. Like, they would panic in that moment, and he just stood his ground and with a guy right on him and made that decision that led to a good scoring chance. And of course, he was the one that got set up for the scoring chance, which is crazy. If he makes the team, I think he's going to fit in right in that spot. If he doesn't, he's poised for a massive, massive season in Grand Rapids, or a massive 2 games. They'll give him the Casper treatment. He plays 2 games in the first 2 games of the season for the Griffins and gets called up and never comes back. So like you said, Trav, week 2 is going to be the telling week, but if he fits in, it'll be nice to see. I want to talk about the next guy in the scenario here, Nate Danielson. He was the talk all last season. He should have made the team out of preseason, and then he stayed the whole season in Grand Rapids and had a good season, outpacing Marco Kasper's rookie year in Grand Rapids for points. Remember that Kasper did play in a men's league before he came to Grand Rapids and played. Danielson came straight out of junior and outpaced him in points and had a really good season. Danielson in preseason so far this season, what are you guys thinking?
It's one of those things, like, he's not hurting his case. He's helping his case for sure. But I still think until he gets better in the face-off dot, I would keep him in GR. Like, here's the discussion that we can have, right? Like, say he's competing with a guy like Comfer for that 4th line center. Is it better for him to play 4th line minutes in the NHL, or is it better for him to play 1st line minutes in the American League? And is he that much better than Comfer at this point, right? Like, is he going to come in and outproduce him point-wise and be better defensively? He's probably going to be having to kill penalties. Like, he's going to take on a huge role. Could he do it? Absolutely. I think he could. But I still think there's some fine-tuning with his game that, and if he goes back to GR, I don't think it would be the end of the world. And the big thing's face-offs. He was a top 10 pick. They're going to want him to play center as much as he can. He's so defensively responsible, it makes the most sense to keep him at center, that he just plays so good off the puck. It's ultimately going to come down to, like, can he beat out a guy like Comfer, and can he win faceoffs? Because that's where he really struggled last year, was at the faceoff dot. If you watched any certain amount of Griffins games, you'd know that.
Yeah, it's funny you bring up faceoffs, because it's a stat we don't get in the American League, but we're getting it in the preseason here. And the faceoff comparison totals are really interesting to look at. So in that first game against the Blackhawks, Nate was 71% in the faceoff dot that night. It's a good night right there. Going to the second game against Buffalo, and he didn't have as good of a night. He was 33% in that faceoff dot. And then against Pittsburgh, he was also, where did it go? I'm sorry. He was 38%. So a great first game. In the next 2 he played, not so great. And he didn't play the last game on Saturday against Buffalo. He finally got a night off, which after 3 games in 3 days with travel, I'm glad he did. But you're right. I think he does need to get stronger in that. The one point I'll point out is that he was 1-0 against Bedard, the faceoff dot against Chicago. And, you know, that comparison's always fun, since Bedard said Nate was one of the hardest guys he ever played against. So that's a fun stat there. But you're right. He's going to have to get better in that spot. And I think that's where Detroit's really going to lean on him being in Grand Rapids, being a top faceoff guy. And this is a prospect that I don't think you can just shift over to the wing with how good he plays that position, like you said. I don't think that's the right move, to shift him over there, let him get comfortable, and then shift him back. Defensively, he's so smart as a center. I think you've got to keep him at center for the entire time. Unless, Devin, you might disagree. Might agree.
No, I agree. I think that I think he could play wing. Like, don't get me wrong. I think that's very much, he's capable of it, but he's not necessarily cut from the same cloth as Marco Kasper in that sense. I think Kasper, you very easily could put him down the middle or on the wing, and he's going to do his thing. I think you hit it on the head. He's his defensive savvy and just how he plays the position. He's a center. That's where he's got to be. That's where his path is to the NHL. Really is down the middle. So I like how you kind of laid it out there, Travis. He's got to be better than he's got to be better than JT Compher. That's pretty much what it is, and he's got to be so much better that there's no questioning it. They got to figure out how to get rid of Compher to make sure Danielson plays. And if it's just, you kind of get back to the old Mike Babcock days where tie goes to the veteran. If it's close, that's what they're going to do. They'll give it to Compher and then assess down the line. And I also like how you described it, fine tuning. I think that's very much where Danielson is at. He's right there. He's knocking on the door. He's in that group of guys that we should expect to see in Detroit to some extent this season. But there's definitely still just a few things to work on to where you feel confident about him as an NHL player, whether it's the face-offs, whether it's the strength, just ability to produce consistently. There's some fine-tuning to do, but I think what he's done for himself so far through the preseason is kind of reaffirm the fact that he is right there on the door. He's knocking on the door. He's on the porch. You see him on the ring camera. He's coming. It's just a few more things to work on.
Yeah, and if you compare face-off statistics as the one statistic with him and JT Compher, it is close. JT was 61% against Pittsburgh, and the only other track night was the first night against the Blackhawks where he was 38%. So he's close, but we'll see. It's going to be an interesting one to watch. I assume we're going to see him in Grand Rapids for, I'd say, at least half the season. I think that's the safe bet if you're going off this week. But again, like Travis alluded to earlier, week 2 is where things can change dramatically. And if he shows out week 2, maybe he forces the conversation. Another guy we got to talk about, I think that the conversation's interesting around it, is Carter Mazur. Where does he start the season? Has he shown you that he should be on the Detroit roster to start this season? What have you guys seen, and what are your thoughts on this? Trav, I'm going to go to you first.
Grand Rapids. Yeah. I mean, it's just like, it's more of like a health thing. Like, he didn't play a lot last year, and coming off of the injury that he came off, yeah, he had that great goal in the first game off the great feed by Finney, which he's still going to the right areas, right? It's not like he's playing bad. I just think, like, if you look at some of the signings that Detroit made, right? Like the JVRs, you add Soderblom into the mix. He was a regular. You add Mason Appleton. Like, if Mazur's going to make the team, he's got to beat out Berggren, in my opinion. And then who are you going to sit in the press box? Are you going to set Mazur in the press box for some other guys? Like, again, it just goes back to where is he going to play more? I think if he gets more reps in Grand Rapids, that would make more sense to start. If a bottom 6 winger gets hurt, then you call up Mazur. Like, if a top 6 winger gets hurt, that's where maybe you would call up Nate. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you got to think like, where can guys maybe fill in a little bit better? I think for Mazur, if he comes down and gets off to a good start and an injury in the bottom half of the lineup happens, that's where you'd see him go up. I just think that the bottom 6 became so crowded with some of the additions that it's going to be tough. And that's ultimately where I'm at with it. Again, though, it's not like he's played bad. It's just when you add NHL talent to the bottom 6, it makes it tougher.
And I would even say too that he's someone, as fun as the Emmett Finney story is right now, he's someone that I immediately thought this impacts Mazur. Like, that's a spot that theoretically isn't going to be there anymore. I know I kind of had Mazur penciled in as a potential member of the Red Wings opening night roster. I don't know where, but I thought he kind of had a path forward. But as you alluded to, Travis, with all the additions, whether it's JVR, Mason Appleton, you named them all, that makes it harder. And then you have a guy like Emmett Finney who's going to potentially make the team too. You're just out of spots. And I don't think I also agree. He hasn't played bad. He's certainly, just like Nate Danielson, kind of reaffirmed. He's right there. He's standing next to Danielson on the porch. You see him on the ring camera too. But I like it. He needs to just play some more hockey. Like you said, he didn't play a lot last season for this reason and that reason. Had some unfortunate injuries, of course. Just kind of get his game legs back under him, and he'll be in Detroit to some extent this season too. He brings a lot that the Red Wings are looking for. there's been that big push at the organizational level for the Red Wings to be tougher to play against. And I think that Mazur's somebody who would help them accomplish that. It's just a matter of getting him back up to speed and then finding his fit in the lineup. I just don't know that fit is there quite yet.
I agree, and I think for us, selfishly in Grand Rapids, it'll be great to have a guy like Mays around here for a while, and I'm okay with that, especially with the chemistry that he has with some of these guys that we know will be on the Griffins roster. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch him play here, but I think it's going to be also tough at the same time for him mentally to have to battle back again and stay healthy and make that trek back to Detroit. That's a tough grind for anyone, but he's been outspoken on, the mental side of the game for him and how he approaches it. And if there's a player that I think can handle it, it's going to be Carter Mazur. So I'm excited to watch him play here in GR, but I know it's going to be either a very short thing or when he steps off the ice that last time in Grand Rapids to go to Detroit, it'll probably be the last time we see him. So I think we're at that territory at this point for him. Another forward I think we have to talk about that we know is going to play in Grand Rapids, MBN. I think he's come out and kind of shocked me a little bit this preseason. We saw him starting to really heat up in the playoffs in Grand Rapids, where you saw the physicality starting to come out. You saw that shot that he has, which is a ridiculous shot, starting to finally show itself. In the preseason here, in the first 20 seconds of the first game, lays out Wyatt Kaiser behind the Blackhawks net. Beautiful hit, and he had a couple more of those in that game. He's had a goal in this preseason so far. He's had an assist. He's played well, in my opinion. I want to know your guys' thoughts on him, though. Is he as advertised, or are you still expecting more?
I think, for my part, that if he isn't there already, he's going to be a lot of people's favorite player, just because of how he plays and what he can do. He is not afraid to engage physically. Everyone knows hockey fans love that stuff. They eat it up. He's going to bring the crowd to life with a big hit, but then he also is capable of bringing the crowd to life with a big goal. Like he's that best of both worlds, where he can play physical, but he can also burn you in the offensive end. If I could have one word to describe him right now, he's a force. He's definitely got, I think he's maybe one step behind the Danielson and the Mazur, that tier, but that's still a really good tier to be in. I think he's probably got one good year in GR this season, and then we're talking about him as a potential member of the Red Wings starting next season, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's pushing for games probably in the back half of the season too. He just already brings a lot to the lineup, and you can already tell if he isn't a top six NHL forward quite yet, he's on that path. He's already making an impact. He's already showing what he can do at the NHL level. Would love to see how he performs in the back half of the preseason as theoretically as competition gets tougher, just to really see where he's at. But over the course of last season, I got more and more confident in him as a prospect. What we've seen in him over the first half of preseason, just kind of reinforcing it. This dude's going to be fun.
He's that prototypical power forward that can score that they don't have, like, currently. Like, he's kind of what they probably wished Anthony Mantha was.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Mantha, when he came out of juniors, right, he had the big goal totals in juniors. Like, MBN hasn't had that. But if you look at style of play, like big body, willing to throw the weight around, and can finish, like you've seen the finish a little bit. Like, yeah, I think there's still time needed, but at the same time, like, you can tell his transition to the NHL is going to be, or even the AHL, them North American style of play is going to be much more seamless than, if there were questions, I think he's answered those.
Yeah, he might be, there's no breakdown of the stats for me specifically here. He's either tied for the team lead in points in the preseason right now or has the team lead. I can't tell. I think DeBrincat and him might be tied. Not a bad name to be tied with in the preseason if you're MBN in that case. But I think you guys are spot on with like what Detroit hoped they would have gotten out of Mantha here. I think that's a great comparison there. And I think, you guys nailed it with that, just a fun player to watch. I think he's going to be a physical force in Grand Rapids with the scoring touch that Bergie might have had at this level, which if he can get anywhere close to the point totals that Bergie put up in those last couple of years in GR and be that force out there, that's going to be great. But I also think he's going to be, like we talked about, Mo Seider being that guy to drag people into the fight. I think MBN could turn into that player as well down the road.
Yeah, you just said it. Like, I was going to point out, like, that kind of guy that drags you into the fight. Like, he could be that guy that's like, get on the bus because we're going to war tonight. Like, he just has that kind of like presence when he plays. Like, and yesterday too, even in the Buffalo game, he made a big hit along the boards. Granted, Buffalo went down and ended up, I believe, scoring on that play. But like, he's gonna finish his check. Like, it's kind of not quite to the level because he's still got so much further to go. But like, you see that kind of like willing to hit guys, can score, put up assists. Like, I think of like the Kachucks in a way, maybe not to like that stardom level, but like style of play. Like, he'll play heavy, but he can also produce. Like, that's, and he's just going to be a pain to play against.
I mean, he's got the off-ice personality to be that stardom level too. He's hilarious. He's one of the funniest guys in that room, guaranteed. Reminds me a lot of Bergie in that sense, just the guy that you laugh at every time they talk because they're saying something hilarious. So I'm excited to get to talk to him a lot this season in Grand Rapids post-game. I think he'll be post-game gold for us, and that's going to be a lot of fun. And again, the Grand Rapids roster just continues to shape up and look better and better every single day as we're going through this preseason here. The last guy I want to talk about before we hit the ad break here isn't a prospect. He's a guy that's guaranteed to be on the Red Wings roster, but I think I want to have a conversation here. When Marco Kasper was drafted, there was a lot of talk of what was his ceiling, where was he going to land, and everyone kind of landed on 3C. He was going to be that third center. And here he is most likely jumping into that 2C role and looking like he's going to be a force this season. He looks like a brand new player that somehow got even better than what we saw near the end of last season in Detroit.
I just have one minor concern with him, and it's the sophomore slump. Like, if he can get off to a good start, like, look, we've seen Larkin have a great rookie year and then struggled. Raymond had a great rookie year. He kind of came back a little bit. He's found his next gear. Like, that's the one thing with me that it's like, everybody's like, oh, 2C, this line's going to be phenomenal. And it's like, okay, just get off to a good start and just kind of keep going. That's the one thing with Marco that concerns me a tad, is like, you always have to kind of worry about a sophomore slump. Like,
I think he got that slump out of the way in his first half of the season in Grand Rapids, this first full year.
I mean,
that first half was and then all of a sudden he blew the doors off. I think he got that out of his system already.
Yeah, very possible. But again, you're playing in the best league in the world, that people are going to make adjustments. Like, teams are going to keep a much closer eye on him than maybe last year. So that's maybe my one concern. But as far as like taking that next step, like, that line has been humming all preseason. It was amazing against Buffalo yesterday. Like, I think he's got the motor that is going to power through that potential worry of a slump. So just one thing that I've like seen nobody talk about really is like the potential for it. And it's like, we've had a lot of guys recently like come in with Detroit and come back to earth a little bit. Like, I hope it doesn't happen. I hope he goes and has a 70-point, 60-point season and just blows the doors off. 50, 60 points. Like, that's probably a goal to attain playing with who he's playing with, is 50, 60 points. But again, like, it just comes back to like, I'm baby steps. Let's see how they start the year. Like,
this is why we keep Travis on the show, because he always brings me back down to earth when I start to get too high on something. It's fantastic. But I mean, yeah, that line has been fantastic to watch. And Devin, you watched Marco a lot in Grand Rapids, just like we did. Just what have you seen the most in his growth, you think?
To some extent, I almost think it's just like he continues to build on his confidence. You see, I don't know that he plays any different than he did when the Red Wings drafted him. I don't know that he plays any different than he did, when he was playing on the SHL. He just kind of has continuously built on his skill set and gained confidence in the success that he's had at the SHL level, at the AHL level, and then in the second half of his first season in the NHL. And he's learning, as every young player does, what he can do, what he can get away with, and what he can't do. I think that the sophomore slump is very much something to keep in mind. I do like that call out, because it happens to even the best players. It happened to, Larkin and Raymond, like you called out. They're top two forwards. Who's to say it won't happen to Marco Kasper? But I do like, I like how Detroit has positioned Kasper. I think that he is positioned well to kind of overcome that sophomore slump. Not saying it won't happen, but you're playing with DeBrincat and Kane. Those two have, fantastic chemistry by themselves. Kasper's just basically there to make sure that those two can do their thing and he'll help out in his own way as well. He'll get in on the action too. And then if that, over the course of an 82 game season, that line's gonna hit its cold streak, it's not gonna produce for whatever reason. And this kind of goes back to what we were talking about with Nick Danielson. Kasper does have that flexibility. He can move over to the wing if need be, and you can kind of give him a shock to his system in that sense. Maybe he slides into that top left wing spot next to Larkin and Raymond again for some period of time. He looked good in that role last season, and then maybe he does slide down to the 3C role for a little time just to get him going. I mean, we saw Patrick Kane slide down to the third line last season. Ty McClellan's clearly not afraid to move you up and down the lineup depending on how you're playing, no matter what your name is. So I have a lot of faith in Marco. I think that he's a real good player. I think he plays the game, honestly, the way, this is kind of almost like a cliche, but he plays the game the way it should be played. He plays it hard. He plays it fast. He plays it with skill. He plays a two-way game. He's a young player, so you don't want to say anything like this, but he's on his road to becoming a complete hockey player. It's just a matter of if he can hit that upper end and how quickly he can do it. I think how he fares this season is going to tell us a lot about just what his actual ceiling is. Turns out he's not just a 3C, he's at least a 2C. But how this season goes for him might even get us thinking even higher than that, which is crazy.
There is potential there for sure. It's all going to be left up to him to show us what he's got. And I think under a coach like McClellan, he's the perfect player for a coach like that, honestly. You can tell how much McClellan respects his game too, and how much I think he's helped him grow in the short time that he's been here, just to give him that confidence to go play the game, as you said, as it should be played. So it's exciting to see. We're happy for Marco. Always big on Marco. Love that kid. We're going to hit a quick ad break. When we come back, we'll talk goalies, talk a few of the guys, again, that we know are going to be in Grand Rapids, and just about the Red Wings play overall so far this preseason. We'll hit that when we come back.
Game on. Week 1 starts now, and every touchdown brings you closer to a payout with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. This isn't just football. It's first touchdown fireworks, anytime touchdown rushes, and live bets that ride every momentum shift. At DraftKings, every play is your next shot to win. Currently, we're going to be rooting for the Detroit Lions this year, and Jahmyr Gibbs has a plus 600 for first touchdown scorer. New customers, this one's for you. Bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets instantly. Plus, grab over $200 off on NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Your season starts now. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. That's code THPN to get $300 in bonus bets instantly when you place your first bet of $5 or more, plus over $200 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas, fees may apply in Illinois. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. NFL Sunday Ticket offer for new subscribers only and auto renews until canceled. Digital games and commercial use excluded. Restrictions apply. Additionally, NFL Sunday Ticket terms at youtube.com/go/NFL Sunday Ticket/terms. Limited time offer.
And welcome back. All right. So we were going to talk about goalies. Let's talk about goalies. Obviously, if you know by now, we're a Griffins podcast, so we're not going to talk a bunch on Talbot and Gibson, but I will get your guys' thoughts on the two of them so far through the preseason. Just quick thoughts on Gibson and Talbot, both from each of you.
Gibby looks fresh and healthy. That's the biggest thing with him, and I think he's poised to have a decent year, as long as the defense in front of him can play defense.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think he's inspired some confidence, and that's what you're looking for in your big off-season acquisition, especially when it's a goaltender.
Any thoughts on Talbot so far?
Not really. I
Looks
mean,
like Cam Talbot.
We know what we have in Talbot. Like, if he can scale back the workload like a little bit, if he can push for starts even because he's playing so well, that's better. But I mean, much of the same, right? Like, you know, he's a solid goaltender. Again, as long as the defense can play in front of him. That's been as big of an issue as the goaltending itself. Like, for the last few seasons. Like, yeah, there's been goaltenders here, but like when your defense isn't playing very well in front of you, it makes your night a lot longer to in between the pipes. So both have shown that they're going to be fine. And I think it's just, we got to play defense.
Yeah, you hit on the workload piece there, and I think that's important to realize that Gibson can actually take some of that off of his plate this year and actually have a good split between the two. And I think when you saw Talbot at his best is when the workload could be taken off. So thinking if he can play like he played last year when the workload wasn't as heavy on him, and Gibson can play like what we think he can play or what we know he can play when he's healthy, it should work out pretty well for Detroit. Let's talk about the Griffins goaltenders. Obviously, you got Sebastian Cossa, then you got newcomer Michael Postava. I want to go to Cossa first. We've only seen him play a little bit in the preseason. We haven't seen a ton from him, and same goes for Postava. Obviously, four games is a small sample size for any goaltender, especially if they're only playing half the game. What have you seen, Travis, from Cossa so far compared to where he left off last season? Are you seeing a change, or are you seeing the same goaltender?
Cossa was better in the first game than he was in the Buffalo game. But I mean, he also made a couple saves in the Buffalo game that like show like, okay, like he still got it. It's not that he's lost, right? Like he's still a good goaltender. I think it's just going to come down to like, can he find that next gear? And I think having a guy like Postava is going to help push him to find that next gear. And I think that's what they signed him for. So I think he's looked for the most part pretty well the same. It's just going to be like, I think he knows what they expect from him. So for me, it comes down to just hit that next gear, find it, and just run with it.
And any additional thoughts on Cossa there?
I don't disagree. I think that I really like the point you made there, Travis, about them signing Postava and him pushing Cossa, because I think we're already kind of getting an idea that is very much going to happen just from what we've seen in the postseason or the preseason here. Cossa has looked kind of a mixed bag. Yeah, he's looked, there's times where he's looked real good, times like he's looked like, one of the best goalie prospects in the world. And then there's other instances where you're like, oh, you just kind of groan. He's very much still a work in progress. It's one of those things where you have to kind of go back to hammer that old school point about how goalies usually take more time to develop than skaters do. And we very much see that with Sebastian Cossa here. Very, very much still a quality goaltender. I'm not like discouraged by what I've seen at all, but if you were somebody who was, maybe holding on to hope that Cossa would be challenging for the backup role behind John Gibson, like from the onset here, I think that we've seen enough to kind of already jump to the conclusion that's not going to happen. I think Cossa's your starter in Grand Rapids this season, as expected. And he's going to have a young goaltender who's actually basically the exact same age as Cossa, who's going to be pushing him. And the Griffins should theoretically reap the benefits of it. You're going to have two hungry goaltenders with a ton of talent. But if you're, like I said, if you were hoping that Cossa was, right there standing next to Danielson and Mazur and knocking on that door ready to go, I don't know that he's there yet, but that could very well change over the course of this season.
Do you think the acquisition of Gibson kind of relieves some pressure off Cossa? Because like you think about last year, not knowing that we were going to get Gibson, you're like, this kid's got to be ready next year. Like we need him ready next year. And now you get Gibson in there, you're like, okay, we have this season for him to get ready and really focus on that step. Do you think it takes some weight off those really tall shoulders?
I think a little bit, yeah. And I think that to some extent, one of the things that appealed to the Red Wings about Gibson is that second year on his contract, or the second year left on it, because that can be his mentor year. Whether it's Cossa who comes up, Postava, Trey Augustine, we haven't talked about him. I actually kind of am having this theory bubble up in the back of my mind that the Red Wings actually want one of their young goaltenders to be pushing by the end of this season. Talbot's not getting any younger. He's in the last year of his contract. Trey Augustine theoretically is going to want to go pro after Michigan State concludes their season. He's got to have a place to go. One way or another, the Red Wings got to have a goalie that's pushing to play minutes in Detroit. And I think that, you're not having a young goaltender push so that way they can start playing significant time. You could still rely on John Gibson. But then also once that young goalie does make the jump, they have a real solid mentor there that can take on the tough assignments and just kind of show them the ropes. I think that, last year I was thinking about how Cam Talbot would be a real solid mentor for a young goalie, whether it's Cossa, Augustine, whoever. And now here we are this season, and I'm thinking Gibson's going to be a real solid mentor for somebody. I think one way or another, Gibson's going to be a real solid veteran mentor for a young goalie. It's just a matter of whether that's Cossa or someone else.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with that. And I think it does release some of that pressure from him. But at the same time, I think the addition of Michael Postava adds a little bit of pressure because there's now a guy that's his age that Detroit has come out and said they want him challenging Sebastian Cossa for games. And you look at what Postava's done in these first couple of preseason appearances here. You look at that first game. I know it was a small sample size of shots in that one because like the Wings at the end of that game outshot Chicago something ridiculous, like 43-17 is what it was. Then you look at the next game and he was tested a little more. Again, the Red Wings still outshooting Buffalo in that one 40-18, which we'll talk about that in a minute here. But in what we saw in Postava, especially in that first shootout appearance for him, looked really solid. Like this is our first real time seeing him in game action. We've seen him in training camp. We've seen him in the red and white game. And I thought he looked really good in those. But seeing real game action is very different. And if I'm a Griffins fan, I'm really happy with what I've seen so far. I don't know about you guys, but that's how I feel. I think of the shootout goal, Travis, that I said to you, I've probably watched 100 times now at this point, that save where it looks like he's going to get beat blocker side, but I commented to you, he doesn't go down all the way and leaves leverage on that left foot to be able to push off and make that save still. And it was just kind of like, is that skill? Is that just hockey sense? Is that luck? I don't know. I'm not a goalie, but it looked like skill and technique in action right there to me.
He's much further ahead than I thought he would be. Being where like you sign a guy out of the Czech league, like, and he had huge numbers, but you're like, okay, like it's the Czech league. Like you don't put that into perspective with like the KHL or the SHL, right? Like it's not to that level, but like ultimately all you gotta do is stop the puck. It doesn't matter what league you're playing in. Like if you can stop it, that's all that matters. And he's played really well. Definitely the shootout when we were talking about it, Brandon, how like it's almost like he baited him in to shoot low blocker there and just got over and made the save. Especially that like reverse angle when you seen it from behind, that was really nice. I think he's here to like show like I'm a legit option for the future. Like it's not just me coming over to play. Like I'm gonna try to make the team at some point, or just show that like I can play over here and I can play in the top leagues in the world. So it's gonna be fun to watch. I definitely think it's gonna really help with both of them because they're both going to want to play and play a lot. So it's going to come down to that competition, and they're really hitting home on competition this year. Like you're going to compete at practice. You're going to compete to play. It's all going to come down to just working hard and earning your starts. And it's a big year for Cossa, but I think with the emergence of a kid that's just shown albeit a couple preseason games, ultimately you're going to learn a lot about him quickly in the American League. See when he gets down here, but it's a positive sign so far.
Yeah, it really is. When we saw Jan Bednar get not re-signed by Grand Rapids, we were sitting here scratching our heads going, what's this Postava kid going to do? And at least from what we've seen so far, you can make sense of why the Griffins made that decision not to sign him. I still wish they wouldn't have made that decision because I would have loved to see Toledo run it back with Gyro and him in net again this year and just have that stable depth goaltending when one of the Detroit goaltenders inevitably gets hurt. Because we know Gibson and Talbot are both a little injury prone, and you get the Cossa call up. Okay, we're calling up Yanni or Carter from Toledo. This is set. Toledo's still got their guy. Now Toledo's going into the season with Gylander and a new goaltender we've never seen play before. So I know that's the contracts and money that probably wasn't a realistic option. So I understand why they did it now, but you still wish in the back of your mind, selfishly, that was an option and it happened. And speaking of Gylander, this makes things interesting because I think no one's talking about him at all right now, unfortunately. And you got to remember that he's still a Red Wings draft pick. He's still a goaltender that can make that jump at some point. I'm shocked we haven't seen him get even a period in the preseason. I really wish that was the case. I don't think he was assigned to Toledo with the training camp cuts. As far as I know, he's still on the Red Wings preseason roster. So I would really like to see him get in there. I don't know, Travis, if you have any insight you want to add to that and why we haven't seen him. Maybe it's just too early, or I don't know.
I have no idea. I wish they would at least like see what they have. And we talked about it. Like me and you, Brandon, are like, let's just at least like let him dress, see what you have, right? Like even if it's for half a game. Say they threw Postava in for half a game and Carter for half a game. Because like you ultimately don't know until you see like a bigger sample size. Like he played American League games last year.
Played him well.
Yeah, I mean, like it wasn't like he was lost out there or anything, but maybe Postava's just shown a little bit, maybe more initially, or is just a little further ahead. I have no idea. Like that's just me thinking out loud. It's not a shot at anybody. It's just they must like him maybe a little more at this point. I thought that they, maybe give Carter a look just to see like, okay, can he compete for the backup role in GR? Because I think he could do it just fine. But again, it comes back to like competition, and we'll see. Like, I think at some point you're going to see Carter get AHL games. You're going to see Postava get AHL games. You're going to see Cossa play in the AHL. You're going to see all three of them at some point this year. It's just a reality. Like, you're going to see it. But yeah, I wish they would give him a game just to see where it goes.
Yeah, I really just want to know what we have at that level. I know preseason doesn't really tell you at that level either, but it gives us kind of an idea. And I mean, the kid's worked his tail off last year in Toledo, and you feel like he's at least earned that shot to go and say, hey, this is where I'm at. Let me show you guys. And I feel like he'd come in and probably play a really strong game too, especially with what we saw in Toledo last year. So who knows? There's still, time in the preseason left. It could happen, but it's kind of unfortunate to see that it hasn't yet. Moving away from goaltenders, I want to talk about the defensive side of the puck here. We've got to talk about the big prospect first and then some of the other guys too. We got to talk about ASP. I think everyone last season when he finally came over from overseas, everyone was like, get him to the Wings now. He needs to start in the NHL. I hope that people confidently see that he needs time in Grand Rapids this season. I think we're all in agreement here. Maybe we're not, but I believe this kid needs a full season in GR. He needs the Cider and Edmondson treatment.
Mainly for turnovers and lapses on defense. Like the offensive skill is there, right? Like you see it. You see him walk the line. You see the like vision that he has for the offensive zone. But like I can think of two in the red-white game that were just not okay. Like going up the middle through the slot. Like you cannot do that. And then like the first game in the preseason wasn't his best. He was a lot better in the second game he played. I'll give him that. Tons better. He's got that flair for the offense, but I think again it's back to the attention to detail. And like I've said a couple times, like it's going to come down to being like a really good skater, gap control, and just positioning like with him. Because he's not a huge guy. Like you see it on the ice when he's out there against guys that are like full grown men in the NHL. Like you see, like he's not a very big guy. So it's going to come down to skating, hockey sense, skill, stuff like that. And like I said, he was progressively better in the second game from the first preseason game he played in. But the mistakes are like, okay, you cannot do that. Like there's just points where it's like turnover at the bottom of the face-off dot when you're trying to make an outlet pass, like, or pizza up the middle, or, hey, that was your guy. You got to know that's your guy, which again, it's going to come to, it's a smaller sheet and just an adjustment to playing at a different level and a much greater talent level overall. I think there's just going to be a learning curve, especially defensively. I'm not worried at all offensively about this kid at all. He's shown the skill. We've seen it in Grand Rapids last year, especially on the power play. Like it's an incredible thing to watch him walk the line, move the puck around, but just defensively is where he's going to have to make some improvements.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I was hoping to see more from him in that first game, especially because it was really the Griffins plus a couple of NHL players versus the Rockford Ice Hogs and Connor Bedard. That's basically what it was. You were hoping to see matched up against those guys. He was going to do a little more in that one. And mind you, he played well, but wasn't his best game. I think MBN, out of those two that came over late last season, shined more in that game than ASP. Obviously different positions, though. I don't know what to say about him at this point, because I think I'm the one person in the Red Wings organization podcast world that once he came over here, I was like, I'm not sold yet. I'm not banging the table for this kid to be in a winged wheel yet. Obviously, he's going to be at some point. I think he's tremendously talented, but I am a firm believer in defensemen take time. They don't develop as quickly as a forward does. They don't take as long as a goalie does. He needs that time here in GR, and I think you're going to see this year like that Mo Sider, Simon Edvinsson thing where he comes in the first half of the season, and there's going to be rough moments, probably where Nick, when he was always up in the press box with me talking about Edvinsson, he was like, this guy drives me nuts. He's complaining about him every game. And then second half of the season, boom, there's Ed that we all know and love today. I think I'm going to hear a lot of that in my ear this season from Nick. And second half of the season, we'll probably see him really turn it on. And it's where you start going, okay, next season, he's there. It's going to happen. It's a guarantee. So that's my prediction. Way too early to say prediction, but who knows? But Devin, any thoughts of things about ASP that we might not have said, or did we hit everything on the head there?
Yeah, I'd say you guys both nailed it. I very much see a path similar to Simon Edvinsson for ASP right now. I know that's for some people that might be growth-inducing. I think there were definitely times they could have elevated Edvinsson a little bit sooner. But ultimately, I think that the way that they did, develop him and carry him along, ultimately that made him into the player that he is today. And he's a bona fide top four defenseman at a very young age. So if they can do that with sending Pellikka, it's what they need to do. I think that also, for what it's worth too, and you guys have already kind of hit on this too, Sandin Pellikka is just a different type of defenseman than Edvinsson was too. He very much relies on being able to make these explosive plays, and his skill set is offensive. And so with that in mind, he has to round out that defensive game. He can't just be an offensive specialist unless he's going to be an Erik Karlsson mega offensive talent that can overcompensate for his defensive blunders. Then he has to round out that defensive game. You either are like a god on the offensive zone if you're going to be an offensive defenseman, or you got to be well-rounded. And as talented as he is on the offensive side of the puck, he's not at that level. So he's got to round things out. And I think that that's where the long runway will come into effect with him. I don't see a problem with it. I do see a full season in GR for him. And I see, and then you kind of, after that, you just kind of assess where he's at. Maybe he does need another half season, another season, whatever in Grand Rapids. That's not going to hurt him. And despite all of this, despite, he's not quite there, I still very much think he's the Red Wings top prospect. This dude has a ceiling like no one else in the system does, in my opinion. I think there's, he could be a real special talent. And when that shines through, we've seen it so far in the preseason. It's just a matter of kind of turning him from this uber prospect into an uber NHL talent. And that does take.
He's definitely going to put up points playing the role he's going to play. I just don't want people to be like, call him up. He's scoring and putting up points at a rapid rate, but he's still rounding out his game. Like you said, that offensive upside is so high. Again, he's a defenseman, and you want him to be able to play sustainable defense while be able to produce offensively. Now, don't get me wrong. If there's a guy that's going to jump up into the play and go, like, he's going to be the guy to do it. Of the two, I think you're going to have to put him with a guy that's a little bit more like defensively minded, like William Lagesson as an option, like a guy kind of like that. Like, that's going to give him some freedom to go. But when they're in the defensive zone, and that, I think that would be a great partner for him down here, just to kind of teach him, hey, this is why you need to be here, or do this way in the defensive zone. Because ultimately, like, good defense leads to good offense. So that's just kind of where I'm at with him.
Lagesson's going to be sitting here just salivating over those secondary assists he's about to rack up this year. It's going to be so much fun for him. But you're right. Like, when you see the points come, don't start banging the drum for him to get called up. Yeah, that's why it's important to follow our social pages. We'll post the highlights, and we'll post the lowlights too. We're not afraid to call a guy out here and there. We did it a lot with Ed. We did it a lot with him, thanks to Nick most of the time for catching those. But either way, we'll share both so you can see both ends of it. But the stat sheet always isn't what matters. That's the important thing. to remember, especially when it comes to a defensive prospect. Moving on from him on defense, let's talk about the two that we were told last season were the guys to watch out for in Grand Rapids, and I think they kind of both frustrated some of us to no end, and Antti Tuomisto and William Wallinder. And in the preseason here, we have seen Wallinder contribute on the point side, which was nice. But defensively, there have been some moments where I'm just like, whoa, nowhere near ready. Nowhere near ready. We got a lot of time left here on these guys. What have your thoughts been on their play so far?
I haven't seen enough to like fully justify my thoughts. Like, you know,
Based on
Brandon,
your text messages to me, that's a lie.
when have I texted you about Wally yet?
Oh, so I'm not going through right now, but there's something in there where they blew assignment. Him or 2-0, one of the two.
Oh yeah, the one goal in particular I do remember. Yeah, that was But I mean, I remember now. I need a refresher. You know, sometimes you need that.
That's what I'm here for.
Sometimes you need that. Yeah, that one play, yes, that was his man that was left alone in front and just snuck in behind him. So it's just like an awareness thing. But yeah, like, again, it goes back to like those were supposed to be the two guys that took the next step last year. Like right now, I still think Wallinder can do it. 2-0, I think the jury's way out on. Like, that's a skating thing. I think Wallinder skates well enough that he can get there. It's just going to be like continuing to find that next level of development and just keep the puck in the zone. Like, that is the one thing that he struggled with the most last year at times. But I don't think like he's foregone by any means. I think there's other guys that have kind of maybe narrowed the gap a little bit with him. But for Wally, like I'm not massively concerned. Again, it's a second round pick. Like, it takes time with some of these guys. They just develop at a different rate. And I think he's going to have a decent year ultimately. I really do.
Yeah, I think he'll have a decent year. I think it's going to be a big prove it year for him. And I hope that he takes that pressure and turns it into something really nice. You know my thoughts on it. The kid couldn't hold the puck in at the blue line on a power play to save his life last year when he was running a power play. But now you got to think we'll have ASP and Shai Buium potentially running those two units in Grand Rapids. So that's going to probably look a heck of a lot better because it seemed like every time we'd get momentum, that puck would just hop over his stick at the blue line and momentum's gone and our power play ceased to exist for 90% of the season. 2-0, it's moving on. Do you think there's any of these other, I wouldn't say low level, but not as high profile defensive guys the Red Wings have brought in this past season that could potentially land in Grand Rapids? Like, you know, you look at Bernard Docker as a potential. He might have proven himself to be in Detroit at this point already. I've really liked his game so far. And you look at Hamonic. Like, do you see any of them clearing waivers if they get sent down here? I know there's the obvious one that everyone wants us to talk about in Justin Holl and where he lines up and ends up at here. But do you think any of those guys make their way down to GR?
Ian Mitchell. I think Mitchell's poised to have a decent year with GR. He's played really well given what they've gave him for partners and time and all ice time and all that. I think he's kind of had some flashy moments here in the preseason, which for us down here, that's a great sign, right? To get a guy like that. They needed a guy like that. So I think that's going to be helpful. They're going to carry 8 defensemen. Like, I think it's pretty obvious. It's going to be 13, 8, and 2. And I don't even think JBD makes it down here. I think he's going to be in Detroit also. I think the one that's going to come down would be Mitchell.
You don't think Hall will come down?
13, 8, and 2, my guy. They'll keep them both up there. I'm going. I'll say it now. I just don't. It's 1 year. Like,
let me say this: Steve's proven before he's not afraid to put someone on waivers. He's definitely shown that. Do you think Hall is a guy that could potentially get waived and maybe they see what happens? Maybe someone takes him.
I mean, it's
and
possible.
If he doesn't, they just call him back up.
Well, you got to remember, if he gets sent down now, you got to play.
So he'll play one game in GR, then get yanked back to the press box in Detroit.
Because last year was a paper move. Remember, it was.
I do remember it
because it was for cap, occurring cap space. This year they have so much of it that I don't think it matters. Like, I just think he's up in Detroit.
Griffin's defensive core is looking interesting in a really good way right now. Like, when you think about, Mitchell, like you said, he's played well. You think about ASP, Shai Buium, William Vollander, William Lagesson, Antti Tuomisto. You got AKL too. We haven't really talked much about this offseason. We haven't seen him obviously play much, but he's going to be a defenseman in Grand Rapids. He was signed here probably, if I'm guessing, so Austin Watson doesn't have to fight as much. Maybe he doesn't have to have a suspension looming over him and have to play with a little bit more caution. This if you haven't seen this guy play yet, just look up his fight. I think it was that Utica, or I don't remember where it was.
I think,
but we've seen it on Twitter, and holy God, the guy can throw him. It's going to be a fun season for that Grand Rapids D-corps. I think it's gotten significantly better from last year if you look at it.
I think it's a little deeper. Definitely is a little deeper than last year, just with overall skill. You're going to have ASP for a whole year. You're probably going to have Lagesson for the whole year.
Hopefully, if they call him up and leave him sitting there again and never send him back, I will find Todd or Steve and have words. There will be words.
I think those
he would have
two,
been huge in the playoffs last year for us.
Yeah, he would have definitely stabilized the defensive core a little bit. But I think, like with Didier out, some of the guys coming in, like Ian Mitchell, a little bit younger, a little bit quicker. I think they're going to be faster, which is going to be helpful. I think at times they looked a little slow for GR last year at points, not for the whole season, but just like with some of the guys that were in there, you're getting a little younger, getting a little quicker. And I think that's one thing that's going to help with Grand Rapids overall is a much more, dare I say, athletic team, a little quicker, a little more skill. I think that's going to help with GR.
And there's a defenseman we haven't even talked about yet, who actually played some preseason action, which I didn't expect him to play at all in the preseason for the Red Wings, and Jacob Trescott. And I don't know about you guys if you watched that game or not. I was impressed with him. He was very sound defensively and shoot first, think later in the offensive zone.
I think it was cool that he got like the Chaz treatment, right? Like being the local kid playing in your hometown, like in a preseason game. That's pretty cool stuff, right? Like you were signed by the American League team and you got to go play in, albeit a preseason game, but you got to play in your favorite team's arena that he grew up watching, right? So that's definitely a cool thing. On ice, he looked fine in that game. He didn't look lost. I think that's the biggest thing is don't go out there and look lost. And I don't think he looked lost by any means. So excited to see what he can provide. Again, that's another young player that, can move. So I think it's going to help with GR.
Especially that was his first pro action ever. We've never seen him in a pro game, let it be a preseason game, but like you said, did not look lost. To look that comfortable, even in a preseason game at home state like that, to look that comfortable, at least he's got some nerves of steel. Like, I like that, right? It's exciting to see, and the Griffins have been using this poor kid for every promotional thing and social media thing all off season. He's been featured in everything, being the Griffins PR guy going into the season. So credit to him for sticking with that. But I am excited to see where he lands. I think a lot of people when he was signed were like, oh, he's Toledo bound. If this kid's Toledo bound, have fun, Walleye. He's going to be fantastic at that level. I don't think he ends up in Toledo, though. I think as we get closer and closer to deciding rosters, I'll have a fun one to throw at Travis that I think could potentially end up there, even though they're on a Wings deal. But we'll talk about that down the road. Outside of that, we'll go back to forwards here. I got to talk about John Leonard. Obviously, 2-goal game the other night for him, and not knowing what we're going to get for him in Grand Rapids. We know that's a Grand Rapids guy. He's a call up if Detroit needs it, but he's going to be here. He's produced at a high level in the American League. We should expect to see him probably do the same here, and the sample size we've gotten looks really good.
They needed a guy like this. This was like what I think they were hoping to get more out of, like your Snively and Dries last year, which they played fine, but like Leonard was, go back and look at his statistics from last year. This is a kind of game breaker that GR didn't have, because I think he had almost 35 goals last year.
36 goals, 25 assists in the regular season, then 8 goals, 6 assists in 18 playoff games last season.
He was kind of a game breaker for the Checkers last year. So it's a huge piece. Like that's the kind of guy, like if you put him with Nate if he was on Nate's left side and you put MBN on their right side, like that's a pretty formidable line there. So like he's going to play either the first line left wing in GR or the second line left wing in GR. It's just a matter of who's there, who's slotting in and playing with who pair-wise.
And to think about a guy like that being surrounded most likely by young, very fresh players, that's a really nice piece to put with them. you hope it doesn't turn into a situation like Nate Danielson and Austin Watson, where if you separated the two, it was like, oh God, what are we doing? And then you put them back together and the magic happens. Like, you got to be able to play with everybody. But I think he's going to be a really nice guidance piece for some of these young guys to really give them the good direction they need to go. And I'm excited. I'm so over the moon for this guy to be in GR. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. The last guy I wanted to hit on before we just talk about the team's play overall was Amadeus Lombardi. We haven't talked about him at all yet, and I think that kind of sums up his preseason so far, unfortunately. I think he's played good. I just don't think he's stood out at the level maybe I personally hoped he would. I kind of hoped he would come in and get sick of seeing Emmett Finney's name in the headlines and kind of, go out there and disrupt some things. But it some moments he's looked like he's struggled to keep up, especially on the defensive side of the puck, which we know is that consistency piece we're kind of looking for out of him this season to really make that next step. What have you guys thought of him so far?
Get this kid to the wing immediately. Like, just move him over and let him become a winger. Like, can he play center? Yes. Can he win faceoffs? Yes. I just think with how offensively gifted he is, he would thrive so much more playing on the wing, where you don't have as much responsibility on the defensive end. And he could use that speed and just straight line speed and go. Like, you don't have to be, lower in the zone. You can be up by the defenseman, covering your defenseman. And then you can just give him that flexibility offensively to let him use his creativity. Like, the back check, I think I said it to you, Brandon, yesterday. I was like, the one goal where Buffalo scored on a 2-on-1, like, it's like, okay, like, I don't know if there was miscommunication, like if Ammo was going to the guy on the near side, but clearly the defenseman shaded that way, and then Ammo was beat. Like, he wasn't catching the other guy by that point. So it's just like a matter of, like, you gotta be moving, which he can skate well, but I think it's just like, I think there was maybe some miscommunication there, but ultimately, like, yeah, like you said, like the defensive side, like, I think if he had a little less responsibility and he could just go play, like carry the play off the wing, I think if you made that transition with him in this training camp and he was solely playing there to begin with on the wing right now, you may be hearing his name more than what you are, just because there's so much skill. If you move to the wing, you'd have more freedom.
I agree. He's a player to me that kind of fits when he's at his best. He fits that Tom McClellan thing that he's been preaching all through camp and preseason. He's a full throttle, all gas type of player. He's somebody that you want playing with a lot of energy, and you want, I don't mean this necessarily in a bad way, but you want him to not think so much. You kind of want him to just like go and do and play effing hockey, right? And I think that's where we get into that conversation of moving him over the wing. When you play down the middle, you got to think about a lot. You got to be aware of a lot. And I think that with a player like Lombardi, I think that you just kind of unlock him by moving him over to the wing and letting him do his thing. So I'm in agreement. I think he's somebody that you need to move to the wing, and then he's going to be a lot of fun. He already is a lot of fun, but I'll use the term again. I think you kind of unlock him by moving him.
Yeah, I mean, it's not bad to have a winger that can also go win faceoffs, right? It's always nice to have that guy that can rotate in to do the thing there, especially when you look at, like, he's had 2 games of faceoff notes so far in this preseason. The game in Buffalo, 47% in the dot, and I believe it was another game against Buffalo, 62% in the dot. That's not bad for him, especially with his size. Like, you would expect lower, especially because we haven't seen him win a ton in the dot in Grand Rapids. Like, it's been kind of 50-50. Again, we're just guessing. We don't have the stats in the American League. The American League could do something to fix that. That'd be great. But, I mean, in both games that he played, he outpaced Danny in the faceoff dot. That's not a bad thing at all. And if he can play the wing and still win draws, even better. That's like, you look at how Seager was used in Grand Rapids last year. He was rotated in a lot if he got bumped up to that third line, and then he was the 4th line center. But if he got bumped up, you could rotate him in and still win that draw at big moments. And he was used a ton in crucial moments, even if it was just coming on the ice to win a faceoff and get off the ice. Seager was one of the best faceoff players for the Griffins last year, and they used it wisely. So I do hope they do the right thing and put Ammo on the wing. I think it's time. I really do. And if that's the case in GR again, it's going to be an adjustment period, but we saw him do it last year a couple of games, and that adjustment period wasn't very long, and he's putting up points. So it is good to see. Go ahead, Trev.
he even told us like it's easier to move from the middle to the wing than it is from the wing to the middle. So I think like it's always like he's never going to forget that sense of the game. Like I think you just like Devin said, you expand on his growth and his development if you move him to the wing. Like he's a playmaker. I wouldn't say he's like a big time. He doesn't have like a huge shot, but he can still score. It's not like he can't score, but like if you moved him to the wing, like I know I just said with Leonard, but like if you put Ammo on Nate's left and you put NBN on the right, you have defensively responsible. You got a guy with straight line speed and playmaking, and then you got the big shot. You have like that blend of everything in one line. And I just like, that's where I'm like, can we just see it for an extended run? Like I would love to see it just to see how he does with it.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. Those were all the guys I wanted to hit on. Was there anybody I missed that you guys wanted to quick hit on before we wrap this thing up?
I'm good.
Cool. Easy enough. The last thing I'll say, just to talk overall about the Red Wings play, seeing them come out in those first few games and outshoot and dominate their opponent in those early games was really great to see. I'm glad we lost a couple because I hate going undefeated in a preseason. I think it sets unrealistic expectations. And you look at the time the Lions went undefeated in the preseason, they went 0-16, so we won't talk about that. Losses in the preseason obviously don't matter. You just hope that you can take away pieces and learn from it. And I think what I'm seeing from a lot of these prospects is them learning something from every game and improving on that next game. I don't know if you guys agree with me or not.
I love the motor. Like the give a shit seems way higher than it did last year. That's one thing that's really stuck out with me in this team is it's like, we're going to go out there and we're going to go down swinging. Like we're going to work our tails off. If we win the game, we win the game. If we lose, we went down playing hard. I think that's probably for me the one thing that sticks out with the maybe clarity. Like there's not so much like just go play, right? Like go play. You know how to play. This is what we want to do. Play within this structure. But for God's sakes, just come here and play with some give a shit. Like I think that's what stood out the most to me.
I think a big thing for me, and this is really exemplified by all the different players that we've talked about that are like right there for one reason or another. They're knocking on the door. They just have that one little thing to work on. I'm amazed. Usually when you have a veteran coach, you kind of think of them as like preferring veterans, and they aren't necessarily great for kids. You bring in young coaches to work with young to play with young players. That was literally why that was like the big thing with when they brought in Jeff Blashill. That was like his big MO. He was going to work with the kids. He worked with the Griffins. He was going to help, tutor the Red Wings next generation. And I honestly, I'm getting ahead of myself. Tom McClellan's been the Red Wings head coach for not even a full year yet, but he's really empowered these kids to play their game. And it genuinely feels like there's a handful of them that have a legit shot at making the Red Wings roster. And I couldn't tell you the last time that it really felt like the doors open for these kids. And to have that where it's a veteran coach that is enabling that environment, it's awesome because you already know the coach knows what he's doing. And to not just empower the veterans that you already know can do their thing, but empower the kids that are trying to prove that they can do the thing. This is why you enter a rebuild. This is why you suffer through the 2019-20 season and the few seasons after that, because you get to this point and you have a big pool of talent that's all, it seems like they're all becoming ready at the same time. And you actually have a coaching staff that's enabling them to push and kind of show them how to find their road into the NHL. And it's an exciting time to be a fan of this team and to cover this team from our perspective.
I think the biggest thing, you kind of said it, is like the one thing that I've taken from Todd is don't be afraid to make a mistake. You're going to make them. Let us coach you through that. Go out there and just play. And if you make a mistake, we'll correct it. But don't like be scared and play timid and just go out there and play. If a mistake happens, we're going to explain to you, okay, this is what you did. This is what you need to do. And I think that's one thing that it's like, it's back to the no bullshit, just come play. And if you make a mistake, we're going to go fix it. Like, we'll help you through it. Like this is like something for me that like, this is why kids are not like, you got 3 or 4 guys like can potentially push them for a spot because it's like, all right, they want me to go play. I'm going to go play. And if I mess up, they're going to tell me what I'm doing wrong. And that's where I think there's way less weight off their shoulders because you're just going and playing.
This is the most in a long time it's felt like the organization's on the same page, top to bottom. Like from Steve all the way down to GR. It feels like the organization's on the same page with what they expect of everybody, what they're asking of everybody, and what these players need to go do. And to echo your point there, Devin, I love to see like Todd enabling these guys to go do it. I think that's huge. And you're right. That's what Blashill was supposed to do in Detroit. He did a great job of it in Grand Rapids when he coached here, obviously won the first Calder Cup in team's history. I think he's actually going to be a fantastic coach for the Blackhawks. I think he got the short end of the stick in Detroit when he was here. I hate to say it, but I think he's going to do very well there for them, especially when you look at how the preparation of the season's kind of going. You're seeing Todd and Jeff kind of doing the same thing with their teams, and that's probably a good sign for the Blackhawks, which that kills me to say, especially when we play their affiliate 8 times this year, not 13 or 12, thank God. But yeah, it's going to be a fun season up and down the organization. It's exciting for us to cover at the Griffins level and, of course, the Walleye level, too. It's exciting for you, Devin, you guys talking about the Red Wings. And I want to make sure to give you an opportunity to tell the folks where they can find your work and, obviously, your show.
Well, thanks. Thanks, Brandon and Travis, for having me today. If you're wanting to follow me, follow my work, follow my thoughts, follow me over on Twitter or X at Hockey with Devin. I write for the Hockey Writers. Just go to the Red Wings channel. You'll find me and Tony Wolak, who is my co-host on the Flying Octopus Podcast, also with Evan Saberin. Be sure to follow the find our podcast at the Flying Octopod, anywhere that you can find podcasts. And then, be sure to give me a follow on the socials. Thanks again for having me on, boys.
Yeah, thank you again for stepping in to fill in the absence of Nick, even though, without Nick, I have a significantly less amount of editing to do sometimes in this show. And you filled in great, so I appreciate it. It's been fun already working with you guys heading into this season, and I know we're going to do a lot of collaboration as the season goes forward. So make sure you are following them and following us, obviously, on all our social pages at Hockeytown W Pod. And you can obviously find our show wherever you're listening to it right now, because you're listening to it. Duh. That was a dumb sentence for me to say. Don't know why I said it, but I said it. Moving on from that, we got to thank our sponsors of the show, of course, DraftKings and Everything Hockey Clothing Company. If you're betting with DraftKings, use code THPN for whatever promo we have running at this time, because it seems like they change weekly at this point. Keeping up with these ads has been a nightmare, but we love working with them. And Everything Hockey Clothing Company, when you're shopping with them at everythinghockey.com, use code WEST. It saves a couple bucks on your order, but it also supports the show directly. So we appreciate everyone that's already headed over there to take advantage of that as well. We got to thank our Patreon subscribers, of course, too. Those guys help keep the show going. We've ran it for free all summer, so you've been able to see any content we put on there for free. It's going to be free until, I don't remember the date that Nick lined up on. It was opening night of the Griffins or opening night of the season in the AHL. Travis is nodding his head at opening night at home for the Griffins, so that'll be when it goes back to being paid. And I know there was an error with that last week, but Nick went in and corrected that. If you have not seen that correction, let us know and we'll get it fixed for you. But outside of that, we got to thank everyone who's heading over there to support us. Joe Schroeder, D-Boss is D-Boss, Tyler Ingalls, John in Florida, Elaine Grace, Griffin, Randy Zick, Derek Sleazer, Lori and Allen, and Michael Asante. Thank you all for the love and support. We appreciate you guys. If you want to join them, like I said earlier in the show, head over to patreon.com/Hockeytown West Podcast to join the tiers that we have. And for all the upcoming nonsense that we bring there this season, we bring unedited episodes, behind the scenes stuff, exclusive episodes. They might be about hockey. They might be about how terrible my golf game is. Maybe we'll get one to talk about with Travis, how terrible the Las Vegas Raiders are.
Yeah, we suck.
But like I said, patreon.com/Hockeytown West Podcast. And thank you all that have already head over there to support us. We appreciate you guys so much. With that, we'll wrap this episode up. Thank you again to Devin. Travis, thank you, sir. As you're heading out on vacation, enjoy it. Safe travels, man. I expect pictures and videos from every arena that we can share with everybody as well. But have fun with you and your wife, and maybe turn the hockey brain off for like a minute while you're on vacation, okay?
Dude, I'm going to 3 games. You think that off switch is happening? You're nuts. I'm going to be like sending a text of like, guys, we got to trade the house for this guy after the first game in Colorado.
I look forward to that, and God bless your wife for putting up with you. Oh my. Anyways, thank you everyone for tuning in. Have a fantastic week, and as always, go Griffins, go Walleye. We'll talk to y'all again soon.
Thank you for tuning in to the Hockeytown West podcast. Be sure to check us out on Twitter at HockeytownWPod and your host, Nick at GR Hockey Guy and Brandon at BrandonGR Hockey.